and welcome to the London Bulls podcast with me, KD Rye, and my host, Tom Goff. Tom,
Hi,
how are you?
hi, mate. Why did you start like that?
Because I've
That
got a
was
microphone now, I
You've
thought we
got a
could
new
use my.
mic.
Yeah, I've got a new mic, guys. For all you haters out there that kept saying he sounds underwater, I hope you're happy now because my future in-laws have bought me this really
Yeah,
nice microphone. So if any of you moan
that's
again, I swear to God, I'm actually just going to go in the focus.
I was one of those haters.
He was, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, future in-laws, eh, mate? What's happened there? Have you
Big
popped a
news,
certain
man.
question?
I have popped a question indeed. I am now a fiance, my friends. Looking at
Congratulations, mate.
thank you, thank you,
Massive.
thank you, mate. I was thinking of doing an Egg Street, but she's not a full Hereford fan, so I don't know how well that would have landed, but that would have been my dream proposal anyway. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, she has been. She has
She's
been
been,
certainly this
yeah, yeah.
season. 4-0
She
the
has,
day
yeah.
she came.
She did Old Church in the Midland Premiers. Got a good record, 100% record so far. I sadly don't have the best record at the moment.
No.
But how have you been, my friend? You've been all good.
Yes, mate. Yeah, been all good. Obviously, it's been a little bit tough recently, but and we will come to that. Of course, we will, because it's what we do. But no, I mean, I'm all right. I'm still looking forward to all the games to come. There's it's going to be fun. Even if we do get smashed against Kiddie or Chester or Scunthorpe or who else? Or Curzon, because we've got the hardest run in that any team has ever had in the history of football.
We have indeed, mate, but we always turn it on against the big teams, don't we? We always tend to turn it off against the teams we're expected to beat, but I'm feeling confident. And as I said, I still think it'll be a title decider last game of the season.
I mean, yeah, between Scunthorpe and somebody else, yeah, yeah, that's a good one, mate. Yeah,
But,
yeah, I
you
like
talked
it.
about it being a tough time, but one positive ray of light was our podcast with Jamie Griffiths.
Hmm.
What a wonderful man he is, and what a strong beard. Unbelievable beard game.
Yeah, yes.
How did you reflect on that? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I think, we went into it knowing there would be a bit of a time pressure because he's a busy guy. It was match day, it was early enough. It was 10:30. But yeah, just I think the thing that struck me with all of our interviews really is just how open and honest people are,
Yeah.
and how passionate they are about the football club. And even, when we spoke to Ryan McLean, he obviously isn't even at the club anymore, but just when these guys just come back and talk about how much they love it, and obviously Jamie's been a fan since he was very young, had every role in the club near enough, apart from being the actual manager. I'm sure he'll probably be chairman one day. So, you know, just great guy, and yeah, just gave us some fantastic insight into what he does, really.
Yeah, you're totally right, mate. And you're right, the insight was unbelievable. When we were like going through the managers he's kind of worked under at the club, like
Mm.
God, what an amazing amount of experience he's got. And I think it's so interesting. Yeah, I think the thing that stood out to me was what he said about Richard O'Kelly, how he kind of like said, you need to clean everything,
Mm. Mm.
off the pitch, how he cleaned the boot room as soon as he came in, and then how that leads to really good results on the pitch. So it's really interesting just hearing about how different managers put a mark on the game, and at the club.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, unbelievable. And I think Ryan McLean's actually gone on loan to Yeovil, hasn't he?
He has, yeah, yeah. So hopefully, obviously, he's hopefully recovered from that injury he had.
Yeah, yeah.
So getting some game time. So yeah, good luck to him. Really, wish he'd come
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Hereford, but
Yeah, of course. I was
need him
hoping he
here.
would actually. As you said, it's been a tough few weeks. But we did have, that last month was absolutely incredible, wasn't it? I mean, if we just get
Mm.
the game against Alfreton, we were both there for that game. We were actually doing that Jamie Griffiths pod just
Mm.
before kickoff. Um, really good result that. It really kind of felt like a bit of a statement win, didn't it, at the time?
It did. Yeah, I think we were very good that day. We were positive, and Alfreton, I think we spoke about it when we were previewing the game, and yeah, they're a tough side. They always make it hard for you to play. I mean, the away game was no different earlier in the season. We drew, but we overcame that. We managed to not let them play the games that they like to play. Um, They like to go down. They're very niggly. They're very, So I think it was a really positive performance, and it was just where we were at the time. We just managed to keep that train going. Um, and we were as high as third. You know,
Don't
it's
remind me, my
incredible.
friend. Don't remind me. After some really grueling away days as well, in
Mm.
terms of distance covered, really impressive. I think we had Needham Market and Kings Lynn not too long before that game. So it was really
Mm.
impressive, that kind of run we put together. And some excellent goals as well, actually. I was really impressed with Tate Campbell's header.
Hmm.
Really nice scoring from a set piece. I think what I remember from Ceesay's, it was kind of a bit of a scrambled effort, wasn't it? He was on that left byline and then it kind of just went.
But it's yeah, sort of a scuff really, wasn't it? But they all count.
They do indeed, my friend. And I was really just impressed with how we controlled the game. I think I remember the first half being a bit drab, but the second half we looked absolutely incredible.
Mm. Mm.
We really seemed to kind of match their street smarts, I think. You know,
Yeah.
I think I always call Alfreton the Stoke City of the National League North. And as you said, they go down, they really play the dark arts really well, don't they?
Mm.
But
Mm.
yeah, really, really impressed with that performance. And then, even to add on to that was the Buxton performance straight
Yeah.
after that. Buxton, full-time, very youthful team. I mean, what was your kind of reflections on that?
Yeah. Well, I think, again, I think Hereford were the better team. I think, we showed that. I think 2-1 flattered them more than anything else. Um, and we should have had a penalty. And I think, I can't remember who got booked for that. I don't know if it was Babos then as well.
Mm.
Because he did in the Rushall game, didn't he? But yeah, I think, Hereford it's just the way that we were playing, just the way that we were going about things, was just so good. Um, and so positive, and we were fighting for things, and we were, um, and then what happens during that game, is possibly one of the reasons why we're in the position we're in now, not having won in the last four, which is that Sammy injured, not good, mate.
Yeah, I mean, he picked up a booking as well, didn't he? And there
Mm.
was that thing of him missing a couple of games, but then I don't think we realized the extent of how bad the injury was. That just shows how influential he is, isn't he? I mean, what a player.
Yeah.
I mean, without him, we've really lost that influence in the middle of the park. His work rate really kind of rubs off on everyone else.
Mm.
And even I just want to give a shout out to Rene Campbell. I think, I might have mentioned it in the last pod, but since he's come in, he's really kind of brought us a new dimension to our game, hasn't he?
Mm.
Feels like
Mm.
sometimes up front, I think Adam really, really holds the line well, actually, as well. But Rene Campbell's got that real physicality that we've probably been missing. Um, and he's been really impressive with his kind of goal to game ratio up until that point.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that's it, mate. And he's been great since he's come in. Look, we'll get on to these other games in a minute, because no one has played well enough. All the players who were performing aren't anymore, and that's we can talk about that. But yeah, I mean, certainly up to that point, Ramey just kept scoring and scoring and scoring, and you know, you can't argue with his goals to game ratio even now. Even though he hasn't scored in the last couple of games, nor of Hereford. So it's indicative of that, isn't it? But yeah, I think two really positive, good wins against Alfreton and Buxton, and you can't really argue with that, especially two home games like that.
I've been impressed with Buxton, actually. They've been a bit of a surprise package this year. They've been up in the
Mm.
playoffs and they've not been in this division for a very long time. But obviously, they've got a bit of money behind them. But I've been impressed with their kind of setup. As I
Mm.
said, they've gone for those kind of youthful players on full-time contracts. It'll be interesting to see where they finish up. And then obviously, we went into Marine, an amazing amount of Bulls fans went. I think we actually sold out our allocation of around 300. But
Mm.
oh, that first half, geez, I was dreaming, mate. Dreaming of the title coming to Edgar Street, 2-0 up.
Yeah, but then that shows you how good we are. That shows you how good we've been. Is that we just tore them apart that first half. Two well-deserved goals, and obviously Ramey scoring and sort of Babos scoring, although I don't think he meant to. But because it's sort of a cross type thing that sort of just evaded everybody from, I think, a free kick. But yeah, I mean, it's just we were cruising along lovely, weren't we? You know?
I think, I mean, it was interesting seeing the form guide actually because they are doing pretty well. I mean, up until
Mm,
that game, they were maybe second or third in the form league. I think we were top at that point, but
mm,
they've put together a really good kind of set of results actually. So it's just so disappointing when you lose a two-goal lead, though, isn't it? I mean, it feels more like a defeat than a point gained.
mm,
It feels
mm,
like 2 points dropped, really.
mm.
But then it's all gone wrong since then, hasn't it?
Well, it has, mate. I think as you say with Marine, they their last 5 games, they've won 4 and drawn 1, and the one they drew was us because we went 2-0 up at half time. Obviously, second half is literally, as you say, it's all gone wrong since that moment. And you have to wonder, and I'm not going to criticize Caddis in this, but what was said at half time? Did we rest on our laurels a bit too much? Did we think it was going to be an easy match? And actually, that we came out and took our foot off the gas. It's hard to say, isn't it? But look, sometimes you can see 2 goals. Sometimes that's it. There's nothing you can do about it. And you draw a game, you throw 3 points away, which is how it feels. But yeah, maybe we need to give a bit more credit in that game to Marine. But it's just that we can all see that at half time in that game, especially when you've watched those games after, was horrific.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, I think, people were kind of satisfied with the point after, upon reflection, as
Mm,
you said, we need to give credit to Marine too. They played really, really well.
mm.
But then I think it was the game after against Darlington, wasn't it? It felt like a very, very lackluster defeat. It felt very similar to the Spenny Moore 2-0 defeat,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah,
Um,
I'd agree.
a few months ago. It just felt there was no real fight or bite in midfield. And it was really telling we've lost Robinson. Then I think it was really kind of obvious. Um, I don't really know what else to say, really. It just felt like a very, very poor performance.
Mm. Yeah, I think, look, fundamentally, I think one of the biggest reasons is we are missing Robinson.
Hmm.
And, when Robinson was out before, when he weirdly got suspended and injured at the same time before as well, we had Ryan Bartley. And I'm not saying that Bartley was good or, bad or whatever, but he was okay. He was fine. And so he could fill in that gap. We don't have anyone now. And so there's just that gap there. Obviously Aaron Skinner has come back from injury. He was playing a little bit, and now he's obviously playing uh, in that role really. And I like Skins. I think he's a good player, but since he's come back from injury, he's not been the same person.
Mm.
Now, whether that's a fitness thing, whether that's just match practice, and he's not up with the speed of the game, and I don't know. But he's definitely not the same Callum Skinner Aaron Skinner, sorry, that we know and love, and that's such a shame because he's a good player. We all know he's a good player. Um, but and then you've got like Ando started well and he just hasn't quite been able to keep going in these last couple of games. Same with Hudson. It's the defense is where it starts, and then if Matt Preston or Carl Hawkins have a bad game or get injured, um, that's it. Because then that's the whole defense. At least if those two can keep solid, it can help in some way. But if one of those makes a mistake or isn't quite at the races, that's it. It's done. You know,
You're
that's
totally
that's been
right.
our problem.
Love skins. It's so interesting, isn't it? Like the impact of an injury on
Mm.
like the return of a player. Like I think we were talking about this in regards to Jason Cowley, like how
Yeah.
frightening he was last year, but he doesn't seem like the same Cowley of last year, does he, since he's come back from injury? And I wonder why that is. I don't know if it's because it's a psychological thing or whether it's both in terms of, you need more time to, kind of ease himself in and a bit more training. I don't know what it is, but it's such a shame when you do see that. But, I'm confident they'll get back to the levels we know they can.
Mm. Yeah, I think with Cal's, mate, I think it's a confidence thing.
Mm,
I think in two ways actually. When he came back, his first game back was that Marine game at home, and he scored. And we all thought, and he probably thought, right, that's it, I'm back. I'm where I need to be. I think a little bit that he lost a little bit of confidence just in terms of the injury. Maybe things didn't quite feel right. He wasn't able to sort of be that player he wanted to be because he wasn't confident that the injury was totally okay. Then you don't score. As a striker, you need to score, fundamentally. Um, and so then when you don't, it obviously knocks your confidence a bit. And I don't, everyone wants him to score. Everyone wants him to get back to the Cowley that we know. But the longer this goes on, it's tough, isn't it? Um, you know, I'll ask you the question. How much longer do you allow this to continue? Because he has been dropped, but and do we keep him for next season?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'd sign him for next
Would
season.
you?
The reason is the work rate he offers.
Mm,
I think there's a lot of stuff away from his goal scoring record that he brings to the team. And I think I really saw that. I can't remember if it was the Alfreton game actually, where he's playing when there were times where he's forcing the defense to make errors just because he would kind of chase balls down, which other strikers probably wouldn't have done. And I
mm,
think he does maybe offer that join-up play between the midfield and strikers because he's
mm.
willing to work so hard and run a lot. So yeah, I think obviously I know what you mean in terms of, he needs to be scoring, but I do think he does offer a different kind of element to our team.
Yeah, I I don't know. I think a striker is judged on goals,
Mm,
and if he can't score goals, then what is he good for? I get your point about what he does, and I think I agree with you. I think that's what he's always been good at, is forcing, putting the pressure on teams and force them into mistakes and everything else. But it has to lead to something.
yeah, yeah.
That pressure is all very well keeping somebody back if we get a good opportunity from it and if we get goals from it fundamentally. From leading from that. It doesn't have to be directly that, but just he forces a corner, we score from the corner, or he forces a throw and we build up and score from it,
Mm,
and things like that. And that's fine. And I don't know if that's happening enough, you
yeah.
know. The other issue I probably have is that he's been here for 2 seasons, will have been here for 2 seasons, and he's been injured in both of them pretty badly. So we lose, obviously this time it was a bit longer again. In the first season it was maybe 6 weeks, 7 weeks, where the first 6 or 7 weeks of the season, that was it. We didn't have our star striker really. And obviously that coupled with Willow that season as well. And then this season, obviously he was eight till the Marine Games was that September. So probably a similar amount of time. So again, you know, we've not got a player.
Mm,
Oh no, it was November, sorry. So that's how long he was. So it's too long for him to have been out, and I agree that yes, the injury then, I've said it myself today, but it's obviously not his confidence and everything else. But, you know, that isn't our problem.
yeah.
And that sounds harsh, but that's not up to us, up to Hereford. He's got to score. That's the whole point in my mind. You know.
Yeah, no, that's a really, really, really good point. And hopefully, if he does kind of break the duck soon, you never know with strikers. Once they get one, then they all start to keep flowing in, don't they? So, hopefully we'll see what happens in the last few games of the season. Hopefully he scores against Curzon, and then we'll see a few
Mm,
more coming in after that. But, obviously, yeah, very difficult result against Darlington, and then we have the shambles of our Rushall.
it was a shambles. You're right. It was
And
horrific.
this
It was cold.
Oh, I know. And the thing is, you can't even blame, like distance with that. I mean, most of the players are based around that area anyway, the Midlands. But I think you were up there, as you said, it was cold. But what
Mm.
did you kind of, I mean, how did you reflect on it?
I mean, it was a terrible game, but then I would say
Mm.
it was no different to the first half of Needham or the first half of Peterborough, really. It was a not great team in Rushall trying to play in a football match, and it just was horrific. And then Hereford were lowering themselves to their level. We had two great opportunities where it got cleared off the line. One of those goes in. It's a different game, I think. But look, they didn't. We came out second half, and it that is one of the worst performances I think I've seen, not just this season, but for a long time. Um, and there was just no, we just didn't have, there was no plan. There was no cohesion. They didn't know how to pass it to each other. It was just, honestly, like that second half, we made Rushall look so comfortable, you know. Um, I mean, in my notes, I said that we made them like Brazil. I don't think it's not even like that. They just looked so comfortable on the ball. It was like, you know, watching sort of a prime Italy where they're just the best defense in the world and they can just carry the ball out and push up the pitch, and that's it. We kept trying to launch balls from the back up towards one of the wings, but it just wasn't, when I mean everyone was criticizing Cisse in that match. I don't Cisse didn't do that much wrong in my mind.
Mm.
The issue was they kept getting him and then you had Jaden White on the other side. Um, and they just kept launching the balls at them, and they did really, really well in that first half. They would control it, but they had no options. So the only option they had was just to run with it. Now, that might have been straight down the wing, that might have been to cut inside, but then there was no option anyway. So even when they did run with it and try and get into a different position, there was no one in the box, or there was no one to knock it to. I mean, it was just it was like they didn't know, nobody knew what Cisse and White were going to do with it. Or that once they got it, that they would probably need some support. And that was the worst part of that. There was no options for anybody to do anything. And then when we did pass the ball, it would be like just behind somebody or, and they'd get the ball, but then they wouldn't be able to move with it, because then they'd have two defenders on them. And it wasn't difficult to defend against. Rushall did a great job. Obviously, they got Nathan Cameron. We all know, how clever a player he is. All right, he hasn't got the pace anymore, but he's still a good player. And he just outfoxed our defenders, really.
Do you it's interesting you mentioned Peterborough Sports in the first half of that.
Mm.
I think Needham as well. Do you think there was a lot of it also being a mentality issue? Did we not seem up for it? Or did it seem more of a tactical problem, like you said, Cisse not having anyone to kind of play to? What do you think it was more down to?
I think the first half was just down to, I suppose you say tactically, because people didn't have options. People didn't, and I think, mate, I don't know. It's just people weren't making the runs that they needed to make. Uh, you could open Rushall up quite easily. We did a couple of times, but we didn't do enough. And then, Remey, when he got the ball, they were just launching it over, and he'd have to try and like, rather than being able to say into feet where he could maybe lay somebody off, or it was straight into, he's got two defenders in front of him, and he's now got to beat them, and there's no Hereford player within 20 yards of him.
Mm.
And you just think, well, something's got to change. Second half, everything, everything was wrong. Work rate, fight, tactics. Um, Obviously, look, it was a 4G pitch, but we train on them, so we shouldn't have an excuse for not being able to play on a 4G pitch anymore.
Yeah, and it's concerning, isn't it? I mean, when you put it down to a lack of fight at this point of the season, especially where Rushall at the time looked like they were quite a way off safety,
Mm.
second bottom compared to us, where we've got a playoff place we're fighting for. It is really concerning, isn't it? We have it all to play for, and they seem like they're going to go down this season.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, very very worrying. And then we went on to Scarborough, didn't we, mate?
Mm.
Last Saturday. Really feel for the Hereford fans that went up.
Yeah.
They've always seemed to be it's always, I mean, the Flamingo Land Stadium been a bit of a difficult place to go in the last few years, but yeah,
Difficult one to
disappointing.
say.
I know, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, all these really northern places, hard to get to. It's difficult for us. And yeah, it's a problem. Um, Again, nowhere near it. Just nowhere near good enough. I think the players, if they weren't part-time, if they were full-time and we were in, say, the league above, I would say they should be paying people's tickets because that's just absolutely ridiculous. You know, they just seem to have lost their way. When you look at people like Jaden White, such a good player, and yet he just doesn't even seem like he's in the right. I don't know. It just like I'm not criticizing him specifically because, as I said, they're all been terrible. But I'm just sort of picking him out as an example of someone who was doing so well and now all of a sudden can't cross a ball or can't shoot. And you think, well, where's that come from?
It beggars belief, doesn't it, mate? And I think Caddis has said in his interviews he does think it's a mentality problem, but he just
Mm,
can't put his finger on why. And
mm,
as you said, he just looks like a totally different player, doesn't he?
does.
I mean, at Warrington, where he had a absolute stormer of a game,
Mm,
where we won on that Tuesday night. I mean, he just looks so different now. And yeah, I'm not pointing him out specifically, but it's just crazy how we can look like a totally different team.
mm,
This season,
mm,
we've really just kind of really bottled games, haven't we? I think, we've really bottled opportunities, and I'm not afraid to say that. I mean, there's so many times we've like just dropped points
mm,
needlessly.
mm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is it just down to Sammy Robinson being injured, or this? Is it something deeper? Is it a
I
task?
think, yeah, I mean, look, some of it is got to be down to Sammy being out. He's a big outlet for us, and he's someone who just goes for a run if he fancies it, and that's what we need. We need someone to just to go for it a bit. Which and I know people won't like me saying this. I'm not talking about his whole play, but Lawson Diaz does this, where at times he'll just get frustrated with everyone and with the game, and he'll just go for a run. He'll just run, and it it worked. It nearly worked against Kiddy. It worked against Leamington, and it nearly worked. I think it was Scarborough. That's what we need. And I'm not saying the rest of his play, forget that, but specifically we need someone doing that more, because we're in a position now where, we're eighth. We've lost our last three games and drawn the previous one to that, where we looked so good before that. And as you said, February was fantastic for us.
Curse of the Manager of the Month award, mate.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is, mate. Wish
But
he hadn't have
as
got
you said,
picked.
my friend, we are eighth. We're still up and about there. We still do have a chance. I know it's been a bit of a gloomy few weeks, but it's been a crazy season, my friend. It's been a very
Yes.
crazy season. It can all turn around, starting with Curzon on Saturday.
Yep.
I mean, this is big tie, this, my friend. I
Mm.
mean, I'm really impressed we won there away early in the season.
Mhm.
But this is, I mean, is it a must win, would you say?
I think they all are, now, mate. If we want
Yeah.
to get into the playoffs, they've got to be because we're a point outside. Other teams have got games in hand. Um, y- you know, it's. I mean, you look at Curzon specifically, right? They're a point ahead of us. Okay, that's all. But they've got three games in hand.
Mm.
So if we lose to them on Saturday, right, they're 4 points ahead of us with three games in hand. I mean, that's well, you can't get that. Obviously, you can't get that back because there's only seven games to go. So, and that's the problem. That's where we're at. There are teams that we can overtake, no doubt, but we're relying now on other people to make mistakes. Curzon is going to be a hard game. They did lose to Marine on Saturday, um, but it's Hereford at home. Although we we have got the seventh best home record, so I don't know what to believe anymore.
They've actually had a bit of a spell at the top of the table, actually. I think they were first for a while, along with Chester, who've been up there as well. It's been a bit of a crazy league in terms of people
Mm.
who've had that top spot. Um, what is your prediction?
Um, I'm not. I'm not going to predict a loss for Hereford because I wouldn't want to do that really. So I'm going to say 1-1.
Mate, same as me.
Okay.
I can't believe for the first, I mean, this happened weirdly at the last pod, didn't it? Where we
Yeah.
almost had the same results, but I've gone 1-1. But
Good.
I think it will be the start of a run
I hope so.
because we have Farsley after that, who've had the worst season ever. I mean, they're not even playing at their home ground anymore. Um, Up in the heavens at Buxton. Well, we'll need those oxygen canisters. I think it's
Oh,
one of
not
the
again.
yeah, the highest ground in English football. Um, I mean, it should hopefully be a straightforward win. I'm hoping, but it's never straightforward with us, is it?
If any team is going to make them look good, all right. No, if we don't win, then I mean, we don't deserve to go up, do we? We don't deserve the playoffs if we don't smash them. Not just win, smash them.
We'll probably lose this and beat Chester and Scunthorpe, won't we?
Mm,
And
yeah.
Kidderminster. I mean, it always seems to work that way, doesn't it? But yeah, they've had a really kind of tough time at the moment. Lost 2-0 to Scunthorpe, 3-1 to South Shields before that, 6-0 to Kidderminster, 4-0 to Chorley. Hopefully we can add to their misery without sounding sadistic. But what's your kind of prediction for this one, my friend?
I don't know, man. 4-1.
I've gone 4-1. This is
Oh,
I'm
God.
not
But I'm
even
making them up on the spot. You've thought
I've wrote
about
this
these.
down.
I'm
I've
I'm
actually written
just
this down. What the hell? I
okay.
can't believe it. So the first time, well, the second time, we're agreeing on
Uh,
results. Unbelievable scenes.
this is just ridiculous.
And we have the big one, mate. I mean, then we have the big one against Chester, don't we? I
Yeah,
mean,
we
we
do.
do owe them one, don't we? After that 3-0 battering
We do. But they're
at the Beaver
second, aren't they?
Stadium. Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna have them. I really think we're gonna have them, mate.
Well, we're going to differ on this then. No, we won't. They'll be too good for us. They'll be too good for us.
Oh, don't say it, mate.
You know, they they've got a very good away record. Obviously, as I said, we have got a better home record than we all like to make out. The only saving grace is they've only got the ninth best 5 game record for this last 5 games. So, obviously there's a couple of games before that, so they may well improve on that. But um, yeah, I think all we can hope is that they're just not quite at it.
We pray, my friends. We pray. I think
Mm.
this will be Cowley's big comeback game. This is the one, mate. He's going to get a brace this game, I'm telling you. And it's going to be a 3-1 win. We're going to
Okay.
3-1, and he's going to run up to you, mate. And he's literally going to be pointing the name on his
Yeah,
10
good for
more years,
him.
Mr.
Good for
Cowley.
him. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm going for 1-1. So there we
Oh, no,
go.
okay. That's respectable. I thought you were going
Thank
to
you.
say we are going to lose that.
No, no.
But yeah, I'd take a 1-0, but I think we'll win 3-1.
Okay.
I think we're going to have a really good turnout of fans. But also, it seems to be the case of when we have a big gate, we never perform, do we?
No, no, we don't.
I
No,
don't know
not at all.
why, but it seems, yeah, we never do well in front of a big crowd. But yeah, I'm feeling confident, mate. I mean,
Good for you,
hopefully
mate.
we'll be
Good
in
for you.
a really, really good position in our next pod after the Chester game, and we'll be
Yeah,
talking about the
I hope
title
so. I hope so.
again. Nice. So, my friend, we hosted a particularly exciting event, didn't we, a few weeks ago to celebrate the 21st anniversary of a very special game.
Yeah, yeah, it was. It was Dagenham and Redbridge nil. Hereford United nine,
Nine?
nine
Nine?
brackets 9. Yeah, I mean, it was great watching it again. I think it's one of those where I mean, it takes 15 minutes for the first goal to go in. It's like, oh, come on, hurry up. But once they do, they don't stop, do they? So, it's very good.
Yeah, I was particularly worried for a minute. I had that wrong recording. It was actually from the game from the year before where we lost. And I thought the guy from Sky was actually a Dagenham fan trying to wind me up. But yeah, it was actually a kind of long time before it felt like the goal winning. So yeah, 15 minutes, but very, very close game, wasn't it?
Mm.
Um, very confused faces in the pub. A few people I saw them looking at tables on phones and just kind of looking
Mm.
around being confused. Um, about the match. But it was nice also seeing the West Ham game run alongside ours and seeing Mr. Jarrod Bowen
Yeah.
contribute toward a goal, which was
Hmm.
fantastic to
Well,
see.
he scored the winner, mate. Um, yeah, I mean that's the thing, isn't it? We had this massive screen. It was made up of like 4 sort of screens worth, um, with the Hereford game on, and then you had these like couple of screens on the side. One had the darts on, and then a couple had the West Ham game, and there was something else on. And like everyone was in there to watch the West Ham game, all the darts, and then there's just this 21-year-old game on. But there were a lot of people like there was this sort of Spanish family, and they were trying to work out what was going on. Uh, there were these guys who turned out who were Chinese, who I think were just in London visiting, like just as tourists, and they thought like when Danny Williams' first goal went in because it was a good goal, they were clapping because it was a good goal. They were just clapping a good goal, and you can't blame them because it is a very good goal. And I don't think anyone in their wildest dreams, least of all Danny Williams, would think that 21 years after he scored that goal, there'd be a pub full of people clapping his goal.
Yeah, I mean, you say clapping. We cheered hard after every
We
goal.
did.
We really made a racket there. And I think everyone really appreciated our kind of, the environment we made and the
Mm.
atmosphere. Um, Really, really nice day. And if you think we should stream a particular memorable game, let us know. We're more than happy to kind of try and organize something. But if there's a particular game you think would be a really good watch, then let us know. Um, Hopefully brighter times to come, my friend.
Yes. I hope
Brighter
so,
times.
mate. Be good if you say by the next pod we can have won a few games. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Back in the playoffs and all looking a bit more rosy.
Yeah.
But there you go. But we will try and get some more guests on. Um, Conversations carry on, and hopefully we'll get someone decent on. Um, the other thing to say is obviously it's the last talking bull of the season, so by all means, I think people should contribute if they can. If they've got something interesting to talk about, whether it's Hereford or whether it isn't actually. Yeah, there's lots of different articles, and it's I must mention Simon Wright, who is stepping back from everything really that he does with Hereford, to go and do most of the same thing at Halesowen. So obviously good luck to him with that. But yes, it means that he's stepping back from uh, commentating and talking ball. So obviously whoever the new editor is, they good luck. Hopefully it continues and we'll continue to support it. So in whatever way we can. So yeah, just make sure you get your articles in. I think it's the 20. Let me just check. The 29th, I think, of March is the deadline. Yeah, 28th maybe. So yeah, crack
Nice.
on.
It'll be a big loss, Simon. You'll be missed massively. Unbelievable work you put into the Talking Boy over the last few years. And good luck to you at Halesowen. Also wanted to give a quick shout out to Mr. Chris Bush, who you remember from our conference days. He sadly collapsed actually a few days ago, but we also sent him good luck and hope he has a speedy recovery back
Yeah,
from hospital. But thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Hope you enjoyed the pod. And here is to our playoff push.
yeah.
See you
10
soon.
more years, Paul Caddis.
10 more years. See you later.